The money I had carefully saved for our wedding disappeared with my husband. On the table, he'd left divorce papers, already filled out on his side. Peeking through the gap in the curtains of an unfamiliar apartment, I saw my husband laughing happily with a woman I didn't know and a little kid. I had believed he would come back. The sound of bells echoed in my mind. It was like they ring during that vow-sealing kiss. My name is Naomi. 2 years ago, my coworker invited me to a group mixer. That's where I met Steve, a guy younger than me. It was love at first sight. He was kind, funny, had the same taste in food, and made me feel comfortable. We dated for a year, and when I turned 30, we got married. I loved his outgoing personality and how well he got along with everyone, but as his wife, I started to notice a few things that bothered me. He never turned down invitations to go out, so he spent a lot of money on drinks and dinners. Meanwhile, I was trying to save for our future. Every month, we were short on funds, and it stressed me out. Even on that day, though it was a day off, Steve had left early in the morning. He said he was going shopping with a friend. I wished he'd think about our finances a little more. I convinced myself that walking a lot trough shopping was healthy, which was better than gambling or something like that. Or so I tried to convince myself. Every month, he spent his entire allowance and then begged for more. He always said,
"It's for networking, part of necessary budget."
It was so frustrating. It was already nighttime when he came home.
It's a day off, and you left your wife alone all day. What's the deal?
Sorry.
I was lonely, you know. You've been going out too much lately, don't you think?
I'm saying I'm sorry.
He didn't sound sorry at all.
Hey, Steve. Do you remember our promise to save money in our joint account to have a wedding?
Of course I do.
I always checked the current balance. I'd been adding to it little by little, but I'd never seen him add a penny.
At this rate, it'll never happen.
Sorry.
From next month, stop spending more than your allowance, okay? You are no longer a college kid. Weddings costs a lot, and when we have kids, it'll cost even more.
Don't be so stingy.
Stingy? It's called being a responsible adult.
Steve got annoyed. I felt bad too, but as the one managing the household finances, I couldn't just ignore the issue.
I can't wait to see you in a nice tux. You'll be the most handsome guy in the world.
Truthfully, I wanted to wear a wedding dress while I was still young. After all, there'd be photos.
Fine, I get it.
Great.
By the way, how much is the current balance?
It's around $1,000.
Wow, that's impressive.
I'm planning a small party with close friends instead of a big reception.
That'll save money.
Exactly.
Naomi, do whatever makes you happy.
Thanks. Let's save up and have the wedding soon.
Got it.
The next day, when I got home from work, Steve hadn't come home yet. Wasn't Steve working late? I wondered as I started to prepare dinner. I decided on chili tonight. It's his favorite. But even when dinner was ready, Steve still hadn't come home. No text from him either. What is he doing? He probably got invited to a dinner at the last minute. Still, he could have at least told me so. I called him, but he didn't answer. He didn't reply to my texts either. Could he have been in an accident? Or caught up in some kind of incident? Although I called him thousands of times, he never picked up. When I called his office directly, they said he'd left hours ago. Maybe his phone died, and he didn't realize it while getting caught up in the fun of a night out. Or maybe he lost his phone and got on the wrong bus heading in the opposite direction. I nervously paced around the house, checking the front door every time I heard a noise. Why did I have such a bad feeling, even though he was just a little late coming home? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and decided to go look for him. I left a note by the door, just in case we missed each other. I'm worried, so I'm going out to look for you. If you get back before me, please eat the chili I made. I hopped on my bike and headed to the bus stop. If he was just running late, I should run into him there. I checked the restaurants and stores around the bus stop. I couldn't find him though. I was getting more and more nervous. It felt like something wrong was going on. With the last bus gone, I gave up and headed home, hoping I'd find him eating the chili like nothing had happened. But the note I left was still sitting by the door, untouched. Steve hadn't come back. What was going on? I let out a heavy sigh and looked at my phone.
What?
There was a notification from our joint account. It said, "Transaction completed." Then I saw the current balance was $0. Even worse, I found signed divorce papers. They were already filled out, and the handwriting was unmistakably Steve's. My mind went blank. What was this? We'd just been happily talking about our wedding the previous day, and yet, why divorce papers? What happened? I thought, maybe he'd jump out and say, "Gotcha." Surprise, but of course, that didn't happen. Time passed cruelly. I blamed myself. If I'd known this would happen, I never would have brought up money. I must have made him feel trapped, and he hated me for it. Steve, please come back. Don't block my calls. Pick up the phone. The note I clutched in my hand, he would never read it. He would never eat the chili I made. I couldn't accept the reality of it. For a while, I couldn't eat, and I barely slept. I didn't want to stay home alone, so even though I looked awful, I went to work. A coworker, worrying about me, spoke to me. She was the one who had introduced me to Steve and came over to check on me.
Naomi, you should just forget about the guy like that.
Maybe he'll come back soon.
I can't stand to see you wasting away, so I have to tell you something.
With that, she gave me the address of an apartment. When I went there, I caught the scent of chili coming from the corner unit on the first floor. Through the gap in the curtains, I could see inside. Steve was there, laughing happily with a woman and a little kid.
You've got to be kidding me.
I understood why he was hardly ever home. Was the money in our joint account spent on that woman and kid? On the way home, I had a bad fall off my bike. The pain and the shock left me unable to get up, and I sat crying by the side of the road. I cried there all night, loudly enough to be a nuisance, until I finally felt like I'd let it all out. I got home as the sun rose. I threw the frozen chili I had made into the trash. Then, I filled out the divorce papers that had been sitting there and submitted them. On the way back, I replaced my broken bike and started the process of moving out at a real estate office. 3 years later.
Great job today. See you all tomorrow.
I changed into sportswear. Hopping onto my road bike, I left the office. I had always wanted a road bike, and after buying one, I got hooked. I rode it everywhere, even outside of my commute. It kept my mind off unnecessary thoughts, and I became in much better shape. While waiting at a traffic light, I heard a voice from behind.
Naomi? It's you, isn't it?
When I turned around, there he was, my ex-husband.
Naomi? Oh, thank God. I've been looking for you.
Steve. Wow, I wasn't expecting this. What do you need?
Can we go somewhere and grab a coffee? This isn't really the place to talk.
He gave me that same kind smile he always used to wear. Nothing about him had changed.
Sorry, but I'm in a rush.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been wanting to apologize to you for so long. After being apart, I realized it's you I truly need, Naomi.
Excuse me?
Let's start over.
His clear eyes locked onto mine, leaving me momentarily speechless. Start over? What is he talking about? Did he forget what he did? No. This is the perfect opportunity. Let's give him what he wants, a fresh start, for the sake of the person I was back then. Yes, I'll make sure he feels it completely.
Steve, I just have one request.
Anything, just name it.
If we're going to remarry, I want to have a wedding reception.
That's all, of course.
Promise me?
Got it. Let's do it.
My number hasn't changed.
Understood.
All right, see you.
Just as the light turned green, I started to ride away, but he called out to me.
What now?
You're really leaving already?
Yes.
Come on, this is our emotional reunion after all this time. Let's go to dinner.
This guy, could it be?
If you're paying, I'll go.
Paying? We're husband and wife, right? Our money is shared.
True. But I'm not dressed for it, so I'll pass today. See you.
Wait, seriously?
Just as I thought, he was still broke. As for the wedding, he said I could plan it whatever I wanted, just like he mentioned 3 years ago. Any venue, any dress, any theme, whatever I liked. Perfect.
All right, I'll do just that. Anyway, I've got to hang up now.
Wait, Naomi, where are you living these days?
Why do you want to know?
We're getting back together, so we might as well live together.
My place is a mess. I need to tidy up first.
I don't mind.
Well, I do.
It's not a big deal.
This man, he was so self-centered. How shameless and rude he was. Love really is blind. When we were married, I didn't notice. I didn't even want to meet in person, which is why we were talking on the phone. Living together? Not a chance.
Steve, I've been looking forward to our wedding so much.
Oh yeah.
Be sure to get emotional when you see me in my dress. All right? See you on the big day.
I hung up. He had no money, no home. That's not my problem, though. This was such a waste of time. I needed to get moving on the preparations. Things were going to get busy. The venue was a rustic restaurant I rented out. We ordered a package for the ceremony, a standing buffet, and photo sessions. It also included a hair and makeup stylist. During the vow exchange, the staff would ring a large bell. The bride's waiting area, mine, was just a small space sectioned off with a partition. I could feel the low energy of the guests I had invited. After finishing the final meeting with the staff, I waited for my ex-husband to arrive. On the day of the wedding, Steve arrived in a taxi I had arranged. He seemed visibly shaken.
Naomi, is this really the place?
What are you talking about? Just look.
I stood there in a pure white wedding dress, flashing my brightest smile at him.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Wait, where did you get that dress?
Steve, you should hurry and get changed too.
How much do you know?
I stared back at him blankly, leaving him at a loss for words. The partition was pulled away, revealing rows of guests with cold, indifferent expressions.
Naomi, there are guests here.
Of course there are.
Why did you invite them?
To be witnesses at our wedding.
The coworker who originally introduced me to Steve had helped gather everyone. The MC began to speak.
Steve and Naomi, congratulations on your wedding today.
Thank you.
You two were childhood classmates who reconnected at a reunion. Steve, touched by Naomi's strength as a single mother raising her kid, decided, "Oh no, this is the script from the last wedding."
Steve was too shocked to speak. The MC didn't seem to care at all.
The bride and groom are wearing the same dress and tuxedo as last time, so I got mixed up.
No problem. Please continue.
When I assured her, she carried on.
As you all know from the previous invitation, Today's wedding is essentially the same, except the bride has changed. Once the meal is finished, you're welcome to leave, and Steve will refund your contributions on the way out.
The room erupted in applause.
What the hell is she talking about?
He shouted, enraged.
Just stay by my side.
The MC continued.
At this point, a surprise cake from the restaurant staff would typically be brought out. But due to Steve's poor behavior at the last wedding and some unpaid bills, there will be no cake this time.
What?
Also, to avoid wasting champagne, there will be no toast either.
What's the hell?
That's terrible. I was so looking forward to it. It's your fault that we can't toast.
You've got to be kidding me. You're the one pulling this stunt, wearing the same dress at the same venue. Stop fooling around.
I stared coldly at Steve, who was furious.
Right back at you.
Huh?
Oh, silly me. I need to act like a proper bride. Well, never mind. I was just thinking about how you told me I could plan this wedding whatever I wanted.
Wait, Naomi?
I almost burst out laughing at his dumbfounded expression. At that moment, a tall pastor arrived.
The pastor who was running late has finally arrived.
Thank you for coming.
My apologies for the delay. Let's begin.
No problem. Go ahead.
Well, in sickness and in health.
Shut up! You can't be a real pastor!
As the staff rang the ceremonial bell to signal the vow exchange, I gracefully removed my gloves, raised my hand, and slapped him hard across the face. Steve was left utterly stunned. Turning to the gathered guests, I spoke loudly.
3 years ago, my ex-husband disappeared without warning and left me in shock. Thanks to all of you, I've been able to return the favor in grand style. Thank you so much.
My coworker erupted in applause, leading the others to follow. Surrounded by smiles, the event wrapped up on a high note. However, Steve still looked completely lost, unable to grasp what had just happened.
Naomi, just to confirm, we're getting back together, right? This is like your punishment for my cheating, right?
Punishment for cheating?
Yeah, I mean, I cheated. I got married to that single mother here. But now you've rewritten that memory for me. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Great, I thought so. That woman only cared about her kid and didn't treat me well at all. In the end, she kicked me out. Can you believe that? By the way, you look 100 times better in that dress than she ever did.
Thanks. But I liked this dress better.
I pulled out my phone and showed him a picture. In it, I was wearing a chiffon wedding dress, standing next to my current husband.
Who's this?
It's me and my husband.
Husband?
That's right. I'm already married.
What?
Look, isn't he handsome? He's the kind man who helped me when I fell off my bike.
The photographer captured the most clueless expression Steve had worn all day.
Naomi, you said we'd get back together, right? You promised we'd have a wedding.
A promise?
Yes, you did.
Well, there is not even a penny in our joint account, so there's no wedding.
Steve looked confused.
Joint account? What joint account?
The one he emptied when he left, in exchange for the divorce papers. He didn't even remember that. That was something I could forget too. It felt like a weight was lifted from my chest.
Thank you for letting me do things my way. I never want to see your face again. Goodbye.
With that, the wedding was over. A few weeks later, I heard from a coworker that Steve had become isolated, with his friends keeping their distance. It's what he deserved. The man who was once so popular wasn't invited out anymore and was treated with caution. Of course, women avoided him entirely. It was only natural. I have no intention of ever crossing paths with him again. I just hope he stops causing trouble and borrowing money from others. As for my current husband, John, he's the one who introduced me to serious cycling. That day, when I was crying after falling off my bike, he stopped next to me on his bright red road bike.
It's not your fault. This bike's just worn out. You should get a new one.
He said, offering me his hand. He seemed like a hero at that moment. As I asked him for advice about bikes, we clicked immediately. Without him, it would have taken me much longer to recover. Now I have a new hobby, I'm healthier, and I've turned a page in my life. I'm grateful to Joan for changing my life for the better. On sunny weekends, we hop on our bikes and go on long rides together. We stop for good food, take pictures, and enjoy our shared passion. Today, we're heading to a cycling path along the coast. Time to hit the road and feel the wind.